Hi, this is Chris Hicks. I'm standing in front of a retirement community in Union Township along Beachmont Avenue called Sienna Gardens. Why am I here? A lot of people lately have been giving me heat for how I responded to a question about TIFs and JEDs in the candidate forum in Union Township. Let's watch that real quick, and then I'm going to come right back to here and talk a little bit about how TIFs and JEDs actually work, try to dispel some of the misinformation and the use of innuendo-based terms like TIF abuse and so forth. So let's watch what happened on Saturday night, February 15th at the Union Township Candidate Forum.
We good? Oh, another question. What's up? I'll just repeat it on here so it records. All right. What's the question?
I'm Jeff Mancini. I live on Rumpke Road.
Yep.
Not that you need to know. But as Claremont County Commissioner, how will you address tax increment financing abuse in Union Township?
I'm going to be real clear because I've never minced words. The demonization of TIFs is wrong. TIFs have been an amazing tool to create amazing economic growth, and all TIFs are bad, the overuse, this is bullshit, okay? Elected officials, TIFs are called tax increment financing. It's how you basically do a thing that allows you to pull money out of real estate for use to put infrastructure in to fuel economic growth. They've been used like crazy in Union Township. It's why you have the growth. If anything, I've encouraged Ken Geis, he should put on seminars for other townships how to use TIFs to grow, to create more economic growth. We got a unique thing here in Union Township. We have economic growth that actually spins off $5 to $6 million a year to fund services. Compare that to county economic growth. What does it require? A hotel tax increase, and it sucks $9 million into a pit in South Afton. So, TIFs got to be used properly. They can't be overused, they can't be misused. But this army of things that demonize TIFs as a bad thing, TIFs are there for a reason. They need to be used properly and legally, and they're a super great tool to drive economic development that you see here.
Okay.
So now I'm back here at Sienna Gardens. This area is a TIF, and let's talk a little bit about what TIFs can do and how they can generate phenomenal economic development. And what makes for good economic development? New public infrastructure that we haven't had before, more tax base and more tax revenue coming in, and good jobs. This is a good example of all three of those things. When a TIF happens, the original value of the property before the new development comes on it, this place, still keeps paying the same property taxes to the same county entities that it always has. What happens is the TIF is money comes out of the property to facilitate infrastructure so that you can have a new development like this. This development is now worth about $9 million. From the TIF, it generates $190,000 a year that gets split between Union Township and West Claremont schools. Additionally, this facility has generated 50 new good jobs in Claremont County. It's a TIF done right. Why am I standing here? I mentioned that this was done about the same time that FC Cincinnati was taking place. This one facility could be argued has created as much economic activity as the FC Cincinnati facility in terms of new good jobs being created for Claremont Countyans. I'm going to take you around and look at a few different TIF things from both a and a Union Township perspective. And then we're going to also talk about land valuation on TIF and non-TIF property. We got to dispel the falsehoods around TIFs and realize that we don't want to throw the baby out of with the bathwater. If you're upset, particularly people about Miller Place, you need to understand how TIFs really work, and that in Union Township is an example where development really works well. TIFs alone spin off and JEDs $4 to $6 million a year that fund all the services in Union Township. So you're not having to pay property taxes to fund those same services. They're happening because of economic development that last time I checked, almost every candidate running for office says they want there to be robust economic development. So let's go look at some other places and learn more about what works and what doesn't work in different projects. Now we're on our second stop. This is South Ashland Commerce Park. This is a county project, and it is also a TIF. So this real estate was purchased, I think, back in 2016 for $3.3 million, and $4 million at least was put in for infrastructure to bring it to $7.3 million. And today, there's two distinct parts: the design within reach part, which is the only tenant, and I think about 25% of the land, and the entire undeveloped portion, which is to my immediate right, which is a big farm field. So remember, the county spent $3.3 million for this before putting any infrastructure. Let's talk for a second about this undeveloped portion over to my right. That portion is appraised at $882,000, but it has CAUV on it, meaning it's agricultural, which means it's only taxed on $340K evaluation. So $340K evaluation, and it only pays $4,961 in taxes a year. Think about that. That's probably 2/3 to purchase, which was $3.3 million, and somehow it's only valued at $340,000. How does that happen in county economic development, and why? And how's that affecting Williamsburg Township and Williamsburg schools? Now let's look at the design within reach portion, which is to my left. This portion was purchased by Design Within Reach, this land, for $31,000 an acre for about $1.4 million. But its valuation, its base value, its value before the TIF was done, was $229,000. The TIF added $255,000. So the entire valuation of land here on the books that they paid $1.4 million for is under $500,000. How does that happen in county economic development? This building is on the books for about $10.5 million. If it was on the books for full value, it'd have to be at least $20 million just on the size of the building. So when you add up the numbers out here, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Land here, $500K, and you've got the land over here, which is $340K. What that means is that all of this, the undeveloped land and the Design Within Reach, the land is valued on the books of under $1 million that the county spent $3.3 million for. In addition to the $3.3 million that was used to purchase the land, remember another $4 million was put into this property in infrastructure, which means we should be looking at least $7.3 million before anything else happened here. So let's think again about Sienna Gardens, where we started out our first visit. That's valued at $9 million, 50 jobs, a very small parcel of land, a TIF that's spinning off $190K per year that gets split between the West Claremont schools and Union Township. Compared to this, a largely unoccupied site for years now, masterminded by David Ubel and an economic development department that has now all left Claremont County. So there's good TIFs, bad TIFs. This is an example of a bad TIF. Why? Because it was a dumb project. Remember, David Ubel was quoted in the Claremont Sun as saying they had to do this here because no private developer would do something like this out here. There was a reason, folks, why no private developer would do this out here at South Afton. So Design Within Reach, I'm glad that they're a tenant here. I hope that someday there's other tenants here, so I mean no disparaging comment towards Design Within Reach. But the numbers here just do not add up, unlike the TIF that I started with at Sienna Gardens in Union Township. We were just out of South Afton. Now we're down here across the street at the Doug properties, the red buildings that we saw featured in a Channel 9 news story. These buildings by the county auditor, who gave them a CAUV valuation for tax purposes. If you listen to the Channel 9 news story, you would believe that Union Township somehow gave him that valuation, and our auditor was stunned by it. Out at South Afton, we saw that a major part of that property has CAUV valuation. Folks, when you see what I think are poorly or half-baked research news stories like what we saw on Channel 9, you have to realize there's a backstory going on in our county. The county people in Batavia have again and again done horrible economic development projects. There's a lot of jealousy for successful economic development projects that are spinning off significant money. So this is sort of a bonus stop just to show you another place where the auditor, not the township, just like Williamsburg Township didn't designate that land out at South Afton as CAUV, the auditor designated that and gives it a valuation as agricultural property. Now, we just came from Evans, and this is sort of bonus stop number 2. We learned at Evans about the CAUV being an auditor-assigned thing that gets it agricultural tax base. This is the FC Cincinnati facility behind me, and the big building is just to my left from where I'm standing. Remember, this is another county economic development thing. It is not a TIF. It is not a TIF, and it's not about CAUV. This facility is actually owned now by the Port Authority and pays no taxes whatsoever. They pay a pittance, $50,000 a year to the Milford School District on what should be about a $30 million valuation, and pay hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars every year for the schools. So another example of county economic development. I believe this was supposed to produce 55 jobs. I've never seen any report of how many jobs were actually created here, new and incremental. But when we talk about the different tools that can be used for economic development, probably the worst is the government actually owning the facilities, which is what's happened here, where the Port Authority owns it, and it's a racket that's not even really technically the way the law is intended. That's why this deal is renewable every year here, because it has to be, because if FC Cincinnati were to occupy this land while it's owned by the Port Authority for more than 360 days at a time, it would be illegal. So they have to have it renew every 360 days. Now I'm back in Union Township, and I'm standing right now in front of the Hobby Lobby property. We're going to talk some more about TIFs here in Union Township. This is a non-TIF property, and I want to just go over some of the numbers for you. This site is valued by the county auditor at $325,000 per acre, and that building at $102.77 per square foot. Again, $325,000 per acre and $102.77 per square foot for this building right here. It's going to be important because we're going to go look at a TIF property in a second and compare the valuations that our auditor is giving to non-TIF properties in many cases versus TIF properties. From the Hobby Lobby in the parking lot of Walmart in Union Township. This is a TIF property, and it's valued at $160,000 per acre, or $33.16 per square foot. Let's do the quick comparison. Hobby Lobby, a non-TIF right across the street, $325,000 per acre, or $102.77 per square foot. Really? This property is worth less than half per acre, or a third per square foot, is the Hobby Lobby right across the street? Remember, this one's a TIF, that one's not a TIF. And when you dig behind the scenes, you realize that our county auditor too often values TIF properties way below what they should be valued at. That means less taxes are collected both on the base original portion before the TIF from this property and on the TIF. Who does that hurt? That hurts the schools. That hurts the township. So remember, these TIFs in Union Township, almost all of them split the money coming out of the TIF portion, which is above and beyond the original property tax portion they were paying, between the school district and the township. There are some exceptions. There's some where all the money goes to the township. Those almost always involve some sort of horse trading. For example, West Claremont Schools gets their office space in the township building free, and that was done as a horse trading deal, in which, in return for some TIF money, they got a free office space in that building. Folks, what Channel 9 and other places should look at is how our county auditor values properties. Just come out here and look at the property maps, look at TIF and non-TIF, and see that there is a dramatic difference all too often in the valuations put on TIFs versus non-TIFs. TIFs always lower is sort of a retribution on TIFs having taken place. TIFs are effective economic tools that need to be done properly. This generates a lot of sales tax that flows into the county coffers, and it generates jobs. Those things are important, and we need those in Claremont County. I'm standing in front of TQL's headquarters, which you can see the going on to what is my left, the way I'm standing here. So this one site generates about $600,000 per year in a JED and $200,000 in a TIF. Here's the point. In Union Township, we have economic development that works because of creativity. It's the same kind of creativity that got us $100 million worth of school buildings with no tax increase. That creativity keeps our taxes low. It generates $4 to $6 million per year to fund the services in Union Township. Rather than constantly demonizing things, what might be valuable is for people to try to understand how these things actually work, to get better informed, and to think about what would be the opportunity in our county if we could take just a part of the success that's happened in Union Township and do it everywhere. What if we could start having economic development that worked versus sinkholes like South Afton or the FC Cincinnati complex that generate very little for the amount of investment that's going in there from the county? And what if TIFs were valued properly by our auditor so that we could have real impact on schools and townships from the value coming on those buildings and the resulting taxes? So now I'm finishing up here in front of the county building, because these are the people that I think are the hub of the anti-union township, all TIFs are bad, TIF abuse movement. They look for people that will adopt these ideas, because here's the reality. County economic development is a disaster. We saw it at South Afton, we saw it at FC Cincinnati, and we even saw at the Evans properties that while they're bitching in here about Union Township, the reality is that our own auditor here gave them CAUV, which means the township has to give them agricultural use. Folks, the reality is the entire economic development office here in the county has left. They are gone. We have got to quit demonizing things that work and create great success, such as in Union Township, where $4 to $6 million a year gets spun off of economic development to fund vital services. If we could take that and replicate it across the county, can you imagine the jobs, the opportunity, and the low taxes that could happen in Claremont County?